And Saul was one who found pleasure in persecuting and torturing the people following Jesus and Jesus' teaching. But one day, Paul was riding down on his horse in Damascus, and there was a light that flashed. And Saul, who was previously named Saul saw this light, and he was blinded by it. And that light was Jesus. So who did Paul see? Jesus. Again, I will say, who did Paul see?
Jesus.
Again, who did Paul see?
Everybody. Jesus.
All right. Now, when Paul saw Jesus, Jesus came to him and he said, Paul, Paul, why persecutest thou me? So before Paul, who was Saul, so who was Paul?
Saul.
Again, who was Paul?
Saul.
All right, now, when Saul saw Jesus, Saul was blinded, and before Saul found pleasure in torturing and killing Christians. Now, Jesus converted him, and now Saul is now named Paul, and Paul is a Christian. And the same Christian who was before persecuting and torturing Christians, now he has to come in and try to convert people into Christianity. So Paul went to different people, and Paul went to the Christians who he persecuted before, and he said, you know what, now I'm no longer Saul, I'm Paul. So can you help me? Can you save me? And the people who before was scared of him because he knew what he did to all the other Christians. They now have to save him and to heal him. So they saved him, they healed him, he no longer was blind, and I take you now to 1 Corinthians, the 9th chapter, in the 19th verse. Amen?
Amen.
1 Corinthians, the 9th chapter, in the 19th verse. Paul is so important to what we know as Christianity today. The reason why is because before he was the opposite of a Christian. He was the one who hated the Christians the most out of everybody. He hated them the most. He never saw Jesus in the flesh. He wasn't there when Jesus walked around the streets or anything. Paul never saw him face to face, but he saw his spirit. And when he saw his spirit, he realized that all this time I've been fighting something so powerful that I thought was the wrong way, and it ended up being the right way all along. So I ask you all this question. Who here has been fighting something so long that you thought was wrong, but ended up being right? Anybody? I know I have. All this time I've been fighting this thing, and then all of a sudden I realized I had a revelation. It ended up being the right way anyways. That's the same way that Christianity is. There's so many atheists, there's so many other religions out there, and they try to convert you, try to change your mind, and try to make you think that what you're doing is wrong. And many times people think, well, maybe it is wrong. So then you go and you search everywhere. You try Buddhism, you try Muslim, you try every possible thing just to find out in the end that you were right all along. So Paul went out, and now he goes to different churches. So Paul became so strong in Christianity that he went to different churches, different nations, all over to convert people into Christianity. And at that point in time, other churches were started. There was a church started in Corinth, where the name Corinthians came from. The Corinthians was a church. Now these Corinthians were so pig-headed They were so stubborn in their ways that they think that just because Paul was doing all these great things, that they can spread rumors about him. They can say, well, Paul is not as great as you think he is. Paul, he thinks he's better than you. He thinks he's the greatest preacher of all time, when we're supposed to be following Jesus. And if we're following Jesus, we have better preachers who can follow Jesus better than Paul.
All right.
Corinthian. The issue and the problem is these people are fighting the wrong battle.
Come on now.
The battle is not who is the better preacher.
Yeah.
The battle is not who is the better Christian. The battle is who can you change to become invested into Christianity.
Yeah.
So right now, Minister Robert, I am telling you right now, you are one of the greatest ministers I know.
Amen.
You know the word and he preaches it diligently.
Yeah.
So I cannot come here and stand before you right now and say, you know what, Minister Robert, I'm better than you. Because the minute I do that, I'm placing more importance in me than him, or him than me. And if we keep on fighting between each other, we'll never reach the real goal.
Yeah.
Because the real goal is not us. The real goal is Jesus. And the more I focus on me, the more I focus on him, the less focus is on Jesus.
Amen. Amen.
So I bring you to the 9th verse. 1 Corinthians, the 9th chapter, and the 19th verse. And it reads, or Evangelist Sims, would you? That's okay. All right. So it says, this is titled, Paul Uses His Freedom. Though I am free and belong to no one, I have made myself a slave to everyone.
Come on now.
To win as many as possible. To the Jews I became like a Jew, to win Jews. To those under the law I became like one under the law, though myself I am not under the law. The law is the law of the 10 Commandments that Moses gave to the Jews. And they had to follow these 10 Commandments and follow those laws throughout their lives. Right? But the issue was, when they followed the law, they end up being the best people to follow the law. But your heart is not in it. Yeah. If your heart isn't in the laws that you are following, then you're missing the whole point. Right. If you're just following just what Minister Robert says just because he's the greatest speaker, you're missing the point of Minister Robert and what he's saying. He's saying these things to bring you closer to Jesus. If you're not getting closer to Jesus, you're missing the whole reason why we're here in this building.
Amen.
The main reason why we're here is to bring souls to Jesus. And for one of those souls is you.
Amen.
One of those souls is you.
Amen.
One of those souls is me. If I'm not bringing myself closer to Jesus, then what am I doing? I'm pushing Jesus away.
Amen.
Who here has pushed Jesus away? I know I pushed Jesus away.
Yeah.
Who else has pushed Jesus away? You push Jesus away by focusing on other things, not the things that you know that Jesus wants to do through you. So I continue. So as to win those under the law, to those not having the law, I became like one not having the law. Though I am not free from God's law, but am under Christ's law. So as to win those not having the law, to the weak I became weak. To win the weak, I have become all things to all people, so that by all possible means I might save some. He didn't say save all. He said save some. I do all this for the sake of the gospel, that I may share in its blessings. The end. I'm saying to you right now that be like Paul. Because Paul is the example of someone who is completely imperfect. Paul was not never perfect. And he continues to prove how much he is not perfect. Who here has killed somebody? Who here has killed Christians, the same religion that you're supposed to represent? And then turn around and say, you know what, I'm the best Christian now.
All right.
No one can be as worse, can be the worst person that Paul was. Paul was the bottom of the bottom.
Amen.
But just like that, God shows his sense of humor. Because God has a sense of humor. God chose the one who could possibly be the worst person to choose out of everybody in the entire world.
Yeah.
And he uses him the most out of everybody in the entire world.
Yes. Come on.
So just like God has used Paul, let God use you. But in order for him to use you, you got to let him use you.
Yeah.
And when you let him use you, you focus on him and not everyone else but him.
All right.
And when you focus on him, you can look at Minister Robert and you can commend him on every possible thing that he's done, because Minister Robert, you all may not know, Minister Robert has come from the worst possible outcomes and turned his life around so powerful to the point where I look up to him.
Yes. Yes.
Minister Melisha looks up to him.
Yes.
Same thing with Moriette. We look up to you. We look up to all of you.
Yes.
Because you're here in this place.
Yes.
Just like Minister Robert said, you need to be here. If you're not here, you're failing.
Yeah.
Just like that, be like Paul. Paul was able to change people's minds and become like other people just to save them, because the whole point is saving them. So if you're not saving them, you're losing them. If you're focusing on what they're doing wrong instead of trying to help them do right, you're losing them.
Amen. Amen.
So I say to you, I plead with you right now, become like Jesus and focus on Jesus. And when you do that, you can't fail, because Jesus won't let you fail. Thank you.